Chex Quest is something that brings up a lot of nostalgia for those who grew up in the 90s, whether they were gamers or not. If you ask an older millennial if they're familiar with Chex Quest, there's a good chance you're gonna get a reaction ranging from, "Oh yeah, I remember that," to, "Hells yeah, Chex Quest was the shit!" What was so special about a novelty promotional game where you fight giant boogers dressed as a piece of cereal? And why has it remained in the hearts of gamers? More importantly, has it, and its successors, retained the charm that captured young cereal eaters all those years ago? What's up everybody, I'm Kirk, and today I'm taking a look back at the entire official Chex Quest series. But before all that, please be sure to subscribe and ring that bell for more videos on random 90s nostalgia. Alrighty, let's get Zorchin'. Chex Quest was a free PC game, a non-violent first-person shooter, that was included in boxes of Chex cereal back in 1996 as part of a promotion. The game was proposed by the Walters Molitor Promotion Agency, who was hired by then Chex owner Ralston Foods to reinvigorate the Chex brand. The idea was to convince kids that Chex was an awesome and exciting brand, while also targeting home PC owners, as the PC market was a boomin' at the time. Development was trusted to Digital Cafe, who throughout the 90s worked on numerous promotional projects for major brands. The game was developed on a slim budget of just $500,000 and subsequently placed in 5.7 million boxes of Chex cereal.
Now you can get a free CD-ROM game inside boxes of Chex cereals. Help Chex Man battle the Flemoids and save the planet Kazoya. One free in specially marked boxes of Chex cereals.
So what were the results of this marketing endeavor? Well, despite the promotion lasting only 6 weeks, sales of Chex cereal saw an increase of 295%, which was directly attributed to Chex Quest. Chex executives were overjoyed, and more importantly, gamers were happy too, with many young cereal eaters responding positively to the game. Now, what I can remember from when I was a kid at the time was that Chex Quest was a wild deal. I mean, the norm for cereal box goodies back then was typically some cheap plastic toy that would hold my interest for a few minutes before being lost among the other plastic junk in my toy box. So the idea of a video game, a CD-ROM at that, being distributed for free in my cereal was unheard of. Now, while my young self was blown away by this, video games appearing in cereal boxes was not actually unheard of. The practice had already been around for a few years before the Chex Quest promotion, but unlike most cereal pack-in games that lean towards the edutainment and board game side of things, Chex Quest stood out because, once again, it was a first-person shooter, just like the ones the older kids were playing. The game was in 3D-ish, and you got to shoot gross-looking green aliens with laser weapons. How could a young kid resist it? And you know what? It wasn't half bad. The gameplay was surprisingly strong, fast-paced, and action-packed. And there's a reason for that, being that Chex Quest is Doom. Seriously, Chex Quest is a mod, or rather total conversion, of Doom. Well, technically the ultimate Doom. Digital Cafe took Doom and basically replaced all of the assets with Chex Quest assets and created new levels, along with some other subtle changes. How did this happen? Well, due to the small budget set aside to develop the game, only about $500,000, remember, Digital Cafe opted to not create something from scratch, but rather license something that already worked. So they made an inexpensive deal with none other than id Software to license the Doom engine for Chex Quest. Inexpensive only because id saw the tech as obsolete. Keep in mind, this was around the time id's fully 3D Quake engine was making waves. This is a major reason why I think Chex Quest resonated with people and has continued to endure in their memories. They fell in love with a reskinned version of one of the best and most influential first-person shooters of all time. Can you blame them?
We were investigating these blobules as proof of cereal life on other planets when we discovered that they actually contain eggs to an evil cereal-eating creature from another dimension. We call them
Set on the planet of Bazoik, in Chex Quest you play as the Chex Warrior, a man adorned in bulky Chex armor and some snazzy blue spandex. The warrior is tasked with stopping the invasion of Bazoik by the nauseating Flemoids, a green mucus menace known for their blood-curdling war cries. Now, Chex Quest is not a violent game. The Chex Warrior does not kill Flemoids. He teleports them off the planet with weapons called Zorchers. However, while they claim this is a non-violent solution, what I want to know is where the Flemoids are being teleported to. They say the Flems are going back to their home dimension, but for all we know, the Chex people might be sending them to a planet of giant killer Kleenex. Jokes aside, this was a clever way to make parents okay with the content of this game. Granted, any young kid could still just pretend they're disintegrating these piles of snot. The mini Zorchers you receive in this game are just reskins of Doom's classic arsenal. The mini Zorcher is the pistol, the large Zorcher is the shotgun, the rapid Zorcher is the chain gun, the Zorch propulsor is the rocket launcher, phasing Zorcher is the plasma gun, and the large area Zorching device, aka the LAZ, is the BFG. Oh, and the super boot spork is the chainsaw. Gotta love the super boot spork. Health pickups are depicted as glasses of water, fruits, and vegetables, going along with the whole healthy, balanced breakfast theme of the game. Gameplay is the best part of Chex Quest, a compliment more directed at the game it's based off. Just like Doom, Chex Quest is fast, responsive, and hard-hitting. Where the true differences are felt is in the enemy roster. Chex Quest features only 5 Flemoids, one of them being a boss, and they're essentially palette swaps for the Zombie Man, Shotgun Guy, Imp, and Pinky Demon, which in turn makes most of the Zorchers kind of unnecessary, as the big Zorcher and rapid Zorcher will take care of these enemies easily. The shooting also lacks some of the pop of Doom's, which is mostly due to the different weapon animations, sound effects, and enemy death animations. Chex Quest is comprised of just 5 short levels that take place in the various facilities of Chex, like the Chex Landing Zone, the Chex Storage Facility, the Chex Laboratory, and the Chex Arboretum. My goodness, does this society love its cereal. The levels are pretty simplistic, obviously to keep things approachable for kids, but still rely on players hunting down keys to eventually unlock the exit. And there's a good amount of secrets in this game too, which is nice. Visually, things are also kept pretty simple. Yeah, I can't say these are the most detailed looking textures in the world, even by 1996 standards, and I question some of their placements. Doesn't that look more like a ceiling texture than a floor texture? However, I do think some of the game's visuals helps it retain its charm. I love the way the Flemoids look. I think the artwork for them is well drawn and appropriate for children, and the bright green coloring helps them stick out against the neutral and muted color schemes of the levels, making them oh so shootable. And I think the way the Zorch weapons look is pretty cool too. They're drawn well and animated alright, coming across more like household appliances than weapons. In general, I think Digital Cafe did a great job tailoring a first-person shooter to work for a young audience, making the world colorful and inviting and not something that was scary or overwhelming. Although, funnily enough, all the Chex Quest games love using low-lit rooms, and I have to imagine this freaked out a few young gamers back in the day. Chex Quest 1 is not a difficult game, once again unsurprising as it was aimed towards kids. I played on Extreme Ooze, which is this game's version of Doom's ultra-violence difficulty, and was practically drowning in ammo, to the point where I could just pick my favorite weapon and roll through the whole game using pretty much just that. To be honest, I can't really sit here and say that Chex Quest holds up. If anything, it squeaks by because it has the gameplay of Doom, and Doom's gameplay is eternal. But I've still enjoyed going through it, mostly for the nostalgia trip, and frankly, as it was when it first came out, hard to knock a free game. With the success of Chex Quest and the big boost in Chex cereal sales, Ralston was eager to capitalize, and once again Digital Cafe was tapped to create a sequel, and thus Chex Quest 2 would drop the following year in 1997. However, this time instead of being a serial pack-in, it was made available for free download on the Chex Quest website. In Chex Quest 2, the Chex Warrior returns to his home planet, and to his horror, upon landing in Chex City, he discovers that the slimy Flemoids have taken over his homeworld. Chex Warrior must now resort his Zorcher and drive these big bad boogers off of his planet. The problem with Chex Quest 2 is that Digital Cafe had less money and less time to make it, and it shows. Quest 2 was very much a rush job. Levels were even more simplistic in design compared to Quest 1, and at times flat out ugly, with some areas being bland gray rooms. This doesn't look like a Chex game, this looks like a Grape Nuts game. Fortunately, Quest 2 does introduce some new enemy types. Unfortunately, one of them is the Flemoid larvae, who are... oh god. hideous looking. I can't tell if that's a worm or a Teenage Mutant Ninja condom, but either way I wanted Zorched. To the game's credit, it was a little more difficult, with some scarce ammo pickups, sometimes a little too scarce, definitely had to rely on the super boot spork a lot in this one, and I dug that they doubled down on all the Chex gags in the world, like famous art pieces incorporating the cereal, and movie posters. Hey, Indiana Jones, Jaws, Ace Ventura, and Mask starring Eric Stoltz. Otherwise, I don't have much to say about Chex Quest 2. It's pretty much the same as the first game, but with worse levels and an enemy that makes my skin crawl. Easily my least favorite of the series. After the release of Chex Quest 2, the series would go dormant, survived for years by only fond memories and fan efforts. But then, in 2008, the Chex Quest loyal got their wishes granted. Charles Jacoby, former art director and lead artist of Digital Cafe, announced that he was working on a Chex Quest 3 to wrap up the story of the Chex Warrior. Quest 3 would feature 5 new levels, and as a bonus, the first 2 Chex Quest games would be included. The game was not developed as an official Chex product. Jacoby decided to make it just to satisfy the fans, but years later, General Mills, the current owner of the Chex brand, would acknowledge it as officially a part of the Chex Quest canon, and would offer it for free download from the Chex Quest website. Chex Quest 3 is just like the first 2 games. Same artwork, same Doom engine. Well, mostly same Doom engine. The game was made with the source port known as Z-Doom, now GZ Doom, which is actually how I've been playing these games so far, in case you were wondering. The big improvement this time around, though, were the levels. Quest 3's levels are bigger, more intricately designed, have better flow, and are much better looking, with more visual variety. Several more enemy types were also introduced, along with a handful of bosses based off the Spider Mastermind and Cyber Demon. Chex Quest 3 is easily my favorite of the classic Chex Quest games. The enemy roster is the most fleshed out, and the levels are the strongest. Clearly, it benefited from not being rushed like its predecessor. Chex fans were also pleased with the effort. In fact, in the 2008 CAC Awards, a yearly event thrown by the Doom World modding community acknowledging the very best Doom mods of the year, Chex Quest 3 won a Golden Cacodemon. To quote the write-up by one Scuba Steve, Chex Quest 3 is just a fun project, with the same professionalism found in the original cereal box release. I doubt any Doomer would disagree. Chex Quest is just a really fun wad. Well said, Steve. Well said. After Chex Quest 3, the series would once again go quiet for another decade. And then, in the oh-so-wonderful year of 2020, General Mills would officially revive Chex Quest with a brand new look and a different product to promote. Chex Mix. And as you might have assumed, a whole new game with Charles Jacoby returning to work on it. The name of this new game? Chex Quest HD, made in Unreal Engine 4. Ooh. So, how did this new game look? Hoo boy. So I'll be honest, I didn't have the highest expectations going into this one. And after playing, I can't say I thought the game was great, but you know what? Not bad either.
When the eggs are exposed to nutritional substances, they hatch into what we call flamoids.
Chex Quest HD is a remake of the original Chex Quest. Once again, you step into the square armor of the Chex Warrior, now known as Fred Chexter, which is certainly a name.
Watch out, flamoids! Fred Chexter has arrived!
As in the original game, Freddy has to save planet Bozoik from the evil, now 3-dimensional Flamoids. Despite the visual updates, Chex Quest HD is fundamentally the same game as the original. You still traverse from various Chex facilities, zorching Flemmers and collecting keys to progress to the exit. The shooting is very basic, but adequate, and most of the weapons from the original Chex game make a return. Visually, HD is not impressive by 2020 standards, but in terms of reimagining Chex Quest in 3D, I actually think the game does a pretty good job. Obviously, animations are very rudimentary, which is a glaring downside, but the Flamoids have been faithfully recreated in 3D, retaining their goofy and oh-so-shootable look from the 2D games. And the environments do a really admirable job of reimagining the older levels. They still stay true to the original concepts and manage to expand on them. The moving HUD supposed to depict the inside of your Chex armor is a little much, but you can turn this off in the menu. In all, I had about as much fun with Chex Quest HD as I did with the classic games. Honestly, maybe even a little more since I got to explore a more fleshed out Chex world. That being said, I'm skeptical about it having the same impact as the original. I'm sure younger gamers enjoyed this, but considering the types of games kids have access to these days, totally for free mind you, it's hard to see Chex Quest HD sticking out. And while I'm sure some adults dived in for the nostalgia, unless they were a longtime fan, it's hard to imagine a play session going past a couple of minutes. But I have to give credit where credit is due. This is an unexpectedly solid and faithful reimagining of Chex Quest, and as I said some minutes back, hard to knock a free game. Chex Quest is kind of awe-inspiring. I mean, let's be honest, this was a novelty game born from a cereal promotion 25 years ago. If you looked up forgettable in the dictionary, that would be a pretty apt definition. But somehow Chex Quest has endured. Was it the intelligent marketing that wisely targeted young kids in PC-owning households? Or perhaps the creative designs of the Chex Warrior and the Flemoids? Maybe it's just because the game is basically doomed. If you ask me, I think it's all three of these factors. Either way, there's nothing quite like Chex Quest. And no, while the games themselves don't really stand the test of time, this series is an interesting footnote on the grand blood-soaked tapestry of first-person shooter history. Hopefully in another 10 years, we'll get another visit from the Chex Warrior for another snot-covered adventure. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on Chex Quest in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and ring the bell for notifications on future uploads. It's a couple clicks for you, but a massive help for me. And feel free to come say hi in the Kirk Collects Discord, linked in the description below. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.